It's 5:30. I'll call the meeting to order, and if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do you have any additions or?
I didn't have any additions.
On the consent agenda, I'd like to remove item E, G, and I for items for commission action. And then under Division 5, discussion of the removal of archive storage. Since we're having a presentation on the renovation, I think if we could pull some of that discussion up in while Vance and Ian are here, we could maybe tie it together a little better. So I'll leave it where it is. We might get all that discussed, but we'll come back to the item later on in the agenda. So with that, with just two of us, then I'll make a motion that we remove item E, G, and I from the consent agenda and put it for items for commission action and proceed with the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
I have second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. City license, we have those noted in the agenda. Next item then is adoption of the consent agenda. So with that, I make a motion that we had approved the consent agenda excluding item E, G, and I. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. When we, under reports, item A, we'll have a report of the flood event. And the process that we'll do is we'll have the presentation from staff. Then I've received two people registering that want to visit with the commission concerning the flooding. We'll open it then after the presentation for you to address the commission. We will, by ordinance, it's 3 minutes. We'll try and keep it close to 3 minutes as much as possible just to conserve time, but we do want to be open that you do feel that you completely address your concerns with the commission, and we will possibly ask questions of you during that time. But if you can primarily have one representative for the residents that could address the commission for everyone, it will speed things up. And mainly we want to keep flowing. We don't want to go over the same thing, but we want to allow all the concerns to be addressed. So that'll give you some time to get comfortable when we get to that item. So with that, we'll go back to item E from the consent agenda. Consider awarding bids for construction of animal shelters at the park. My question, Barb, looking at the specification or the description of the building, you're kind of looking at two ways. It talks about wood and it talks about steel, and it's up to whoever bid. It's pretty open for you to know exactly what you're going to get. And I think for long-term use, if we could go with steel, it would be better. But if we picked an actual building form, I don't know if Don can help you select a building system that would keep you consistent and some guidelines, because we're not talking about type of footings, foundation, and it really keeps it's pretty open for us not to have control of our end product.
There are no footings to this, to animal shelters. They basically are like a pole barn. They have no footings. And when you go into them, they're mostly wood. 99% of the time they're wood. But I did give a little that option of steel because of Go Bob, which they did not bid, were a steel type company. You look at any of the others, they're always wood. So that's why I threw that in there.
But if we went with a metal frame, would that give you longer life, less maintenance?
Not necessarily. I mean, what they've got there now is a big old Westar post, poles,
Right.
in there is what they've got now. The only disadvantage of those is how it connects, the tin connects, and then they tend to catch onto the round because they're round and not square. And so I'm not real thrilled about those. The basic problem we have is the animals rubbing against the buildings and stuff. So what we went through, I did add the steel because of Go Bob. I thought they may want to put it in a bid, but all the others do the wood.
Because it's pretty broad on spacing of your supports, and are they going to put the post in the ground in concrete? Are they going to tamp it in dirt? There's some things that are pretty open on that. I didn't
Generally,
see
it's
anything,
always in concrete. Yeah.
but there's nothing says that it has to be. So that there's some open ends that I saw, and thought it needed to be defined a little tighter for us for long-term use of the building. Even with depth of footings. I know on a ramp, we required a homeowner to put, I think, 36-inch deep posts.
I actually took it to Don and had him look at it, and he said that looked good. So,
Just this description here?
so that's why I went with it. I'm not in construction, so.
I know that's why I wondered if you had some help getting a little closer spec to secure the quality of our structure.
It's fine with me. I mean, if we want to redo it, that's fine, and send it out. I'd like to get it going, but
Right,
yeah.
right.
But yeah, I did try to go through all the process that I thought was necessary.
Yeah, and your specialty is organizing the park and keeping things going there, and this is, for you to come up and try and cover all the bases here, which is totally foreign to you, it's really
Right.
difficult, puts a lot of stress on
I
on
basically
you.
went through all the books and literature. I've gone to Tulsa Fair, the Home and Garden, talked to people. Last weekend I went up to the state fair for the catch pens we're starting to work for and stuff like that. And I've talked to a lot of individuals and gotten ideas. So I've kind of taken some of the information off of their booklets, all the different things that I've gotten, and that's where I've kind of basically got the information and went for it. Went through that.
But do you think you could work with the low bidder and have them write a more accurate description of what they're going to provide?
I could.
And then it'll just solve a lot of problems in the end. I've seen a situation where you open it up, and then in the end, when it's done, you're not satisfied. And if they could get it identified specifically, their
Sounds like
framing
Yeah.
and the depth of their footing, and make sure it's in concrete, and just give you the chance to
Yeah, I could do
get
that.
it all in
And then what do
writing.
you want me to do? Bring it back the next meeting, or do you just want me to get it with Dawn? Or
We've got a special meeting Monday. Do you think they could get it to you Monday? And
I can try.
if
I'll
not,
give
the
them a
next,
call.
if not, the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll be glad to do that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
We'll table that for tonight then. On item G, with the description again, it says considering partnering with SEK Senior Safety and Wellness Coalition for the Health on Purpose Health Fair at the Civic Center on September 21st. I still struggle with the term partnering, that it opens us up for other situations. I'm not opposed to supporting with, like we have in the past, but I'm concerned with the term partnering. You know, if we can remove the term partnering and proceed as we are, I have no problem, but I really think we need to start addressing our partnering, that it could lead us into a situation with organizations that desire to use our facility, but since we don't have guidelines, it will make it very difficult for us to avoid that relationship. So, you know, if we could strike the word partnering and just come with an agreement for the facility, I have no objection to that, if that's possible. See any objection to just striking the term partnering?
I don't.
I haven't studied it.
No.
I mean, you know, we were looking, going to do some search and looking around, see if there was any other similar situations, and we just, other things have popped up, and we haven't had a lot of time to
Yeah.
do some things, but we are doing that search, see if we can find something. But 'cause it is kind of a waffle, kind of a gray area on some things.
Yeah. So if that's acceptable, then I'd make a motion that we allow SEK Senior Safety and Wellness Coalition access to the Civic Center on September 21st, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay.
So will they continue to look into that term, partnering, and make a report later?
Yeah.
Because I knew that we were trying to define that term. Okay.
On item I, clarification in the background information. It says if the debt service is funded by the water rate increase, this would equate to roughly $3.90 per user per month. So for every $1 million borrowed, this would equate to roughly $1.30 per user per month. And it went on in describing that with our rate increase, that this was taken into consideration. So have we already covered the $3.90 per month in our rate increase now, or are we anticipating additional increases?
No, it was included in the rate increase from last year.
Okay.
Well, actually this year, 2018. So
So-
it was in our plan that we put together for the commission last year.
So for this loan that we're looking at, we're not going to have to come back and say, now we need another increase to cover these expenses.
No, this is just an illustration to kind of show per household what that would mean to
Okay.
them on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the rate increase incorporated all this loan in there,
Okay.
so it's taken care of.
And then when we initially looked at the loan, there was some replacement of some basins, and the tests showed that they were not going to need total replacement. So that $3 million we're going to get is flexible. We might get that much, but it could be less.
That's
covering just
correct.
the scope of the work.
And if everything comes back in, it's a little higher, that can also go up
Yeah.
too. So either direction.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Those were the questions that I had. Okay? Oh,
We could try it, it may not.
yeah, I
that may
forgot I
not be the issue.
covered it up.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, with that, then, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda,
Or this is on item I?
or item I. We tabled E, item I.
Yeah. Do we adopt the ordinance authorizing the loan from the state of Kansas, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment? Okay. Then I'll second your motion.
All in
All
favor?
in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Items for commission action. Consider approving a proposal from PSI for performance of asbestos project design and bid assistance for the 1916 City Hall building. Andy, do you want to address anything on that for the commission? Or not Andy, excuse me, Vance.
Vance Kelly with Trainer HL. The reason we were recommending continuing to use PSI is that they had done the original report, the investigation work on the building, and now that we're ready to potentially move into the interior selective demolition work, we need bid documents prepared for any abatement, and they seem like a logical choice. We were able to work with them to get a proposal, and it seemed extremely reasonable for what they needed to do. We did ask for one additional test to be done, and that was up on the roof. The original test tested the surface material, and as Ian and I talked, we felt like many times the historic roofing material might also contain asbestos, so they'll be cutting in and doing a test for that as well.
Usually the felt used for the flashings
Yes.
had asbestos fiber in it.
Yes.
Now, their drawings will not be included in yours. That'll be a separate package.
That's correct.
So what would the procedure be for them to work direct? They're working direct then for the city and not for you?
That is correct. Our insurance carrier does not allow us to have environmental work as part of our contract. Obviously, there will be coordination necessary between the abatement work and the selective interior demolition work. What PSI will do is they'll prepare bid documents, then they'll assist with the city with putting it out on the street, reviewing the bids, and then they have an obligation as part of this contract prior to construction, during construction, and after construction.
So would you serve as our contact with PSI? So since it all works through construction, instead
Right.
of them having a representative and city staff that has to relay information to you, you would just be our representative through the
And we've done
contract?
that we've done that in the past for other municipalities and counties as well, so we can do that. Yes.
What's the time schedule looking at them to complete their work?
I haven't discussed that with them yet, but it would be probably a month or so for them to be able to get their documents pulled together
Okay.
based on other abatement work that we've done before. So
Would they need to be completed and bid at the same time that the renovation or the first phase drawings bid?
They don't have to be. It is our recommendation that you do that. That way you have an understanding of the overall costs of the
Right.
project at the same time.
Okay. So once we approve the agreement, then they would be contacted to do their additional testing.
Yes.
Then they would prepare their documents based upon that test. And, okay,
Yes, and then we'd coordinate with them, their work, and the work associated with our package.
okay. Do you have any?
At that time, you're saying 30 days to do the testing, and then we'd have that report as to what you found within
Right, and so.
within what time frame?
So if the city approves this, then we'll get back with them about the exact timing of it. We're going to let them know that our package, our work is ready to go out on the street. So we're going to encourage them to do this as quickly and efficiently as possible. But Ian's right. Sometimes we have to wait in line, and it may be up to that 30-day mark before they're done.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have any questions for Vance? Did you, Jeff? Okay. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that authorize an advertisement, I move to approve the PSI proposal for performance of asbestos project design and bid assistance service for asbestos removal from the 1916 City Hall building for the lump sum fee of $2,100.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next item on the agenda, considering issuing an advertisement for bids for the 1916 City Hall project to seal the building and to complete interior demolition as one bid package, now known as City Hall renovation Phase 1.
Last time we were here, we provided last time we were here, we provided an overall view of the project. What Ian's going to do is a continuation of that presentation to bring you up to speed of where we are with the package and what's been accomplished.
So this will just be kind of a quick run through of where we're at now with the final documents. Just kind of a recap of what's happened on the project to date. At the end of June, we did our on-site study of the building, collected all of our field information and field verification of the historic documents that were provided to us by the city. And then on the 26th of July, we presented that final report of our assessment to the commission, and immediately began working on the construction documents for putting out to bid, which include the interior scope of the selective demolition of all of the non-historic elements and all the unneeded mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system components on the interior of the building. For the exterior scope, that includes selective demolition of all of the rooftop radio equipment and removal of the existing roof, provision of a cool roof system to reduce heat buildup with the new roof that goes back, repair and repointing of all the architectural terracotta detailing on the building, repointing of all the failed and open joints in the brick masonry, and full repointing and redressing of the Carthage marble basement walls, as well as installation of new aluminum windows to replace the existing failed vinyl windows. So this is just the building, kind of a reminder of the three areas of materials that we're dealing with. The terracotta is largely along the cornice at the top of the building. The brick makes up the majority of the walls, and then the Carthage marble is the base of the building at the foundation walls in the basement. And this is just one of the photos from our earlier presentation showing the kind of deterioration that we were finding. This is at the terracotta cornice, where you can see that over time, open joints above in the masonry and in the terracotta itself have allowed water to get into the system and cause spalling of the glazing. So in this situation, our document set's covering repair of the glazing with a glazing replacement product and installation of more durable sealant joints at all of the skyward facing surfaces on the cornice, as well as then full repointing of all the other masonry joints in the cornice. So, and then for the scope of work, we have built in some alternates that will give the city some flexibility on cost and quality with the project. I'll just kind of run through the list. The alternate one is full repoint of the brick masonry exterior walls. The base bid that we have set up only includes the repointing of failed or open brick mortar joints, but I was finding during our field investigation that a lot of those historic masonry joints are very close to being in a failure state. So this would improve the quality of the final product by doing a full repoint on the building, but for cost reasons could be left out of the project. Alternate number 2, installation of lead T-caps at all the skyward facing joints in the terracotta and the Carthage marble. This is a lead T-cap is a product that you can install in those sealant joints that would be on the skyward facing surfaces that makes them much more durable over time. Alternate number 3 is the basement window lintel replacement. In our base bid work, once we started talking with our structural engineer, the basement windows where we were finding the deteriorated steel lintels, those lintel stones above them are actually capable of carrying their own weight. And so we came to the conclusion that with him that probably it was more of a construction detail from the time that allowed them to build the building easier. So this alternate is taking that base bid work of just removing the deteriorated portion of the lintel and instead removing the stone so that we can get at the full lintel behind it and replace all of the steel, coat that we can get to with a new lintel, and then coat any remaining historic steel with an anti-rust coating before we reset the stone and repoint it. And then alternate number 4 is aluminum clad windows in lieu of the aluminum windows that we have as the base bid in the project, which would be a cost savings to the project. This is just an example sheet of some of our final documents. And our estimate of the probable costs, we're kind of standing by our original numbers. The scope that we originally estimated hasn't really changed over the course of finalizing the construction documents. We have added the note that we are seeing and hearing from those in the construction industry that the tariffs are beginning to impact some material costs across different sectors of the construction industry, but since this project is more of a labor-heavy project than a material-heavy project, that may not be as much of an issue. And in talking with a few different roofers, they've said that they really haven't seen that impacting any of their particular material products yet. So we have added the structural engineer to the project as our consultant. So we're requesting approval of amending the contract to include his services. We are available to help you in the discussion of the archive storage and can continue to provide guidance on that issue as necessary. And so we're just requesting approval to move forward with the bidding process, and we'll coordinate with city staff on the desired bid schedule and bid dates. So.
I had a few questions on the plans. Not going to go through all of them. Some are more technical. I can visit with you, but in general, there's 2 skylights on the building, and you've noted both of them to be replaced. One is on the 2nd floor in the hallway.
Correct.
Is the other one over the vertical shaft?
Yes, it's over the air shaft.
Okay. I wondered with that, is this an operable skylight you're putting in, or if there's no need for ventilation, is that skylight really necessary at this time?
In that situation, since it is a historic skylight that's there currently, we were looking at trying to go back with something very similar to the existing historic condition at that location, just for the sake of future tax credits in case that becomes an issue. It wouldn't be an operable there'd be no need to have it be an operable skylight at that location. Any future MEP work, HVAC that we put in the building is not going to be using that air shaft, for any air intake of any kind. So it was really part of the original ventilation scheme for the building. So
Yeah, that's what I wondered. If it's not going to have a purpose, would it be better to either close the opening with a cap for now? Because, it depends on how the HVAC system comes in. It is ideal to bring fresh air down into the building if you have some remote air handlers. But, is it a skylight that maybe we could move back into the next phase? And then if we want to put it in, then we can, or, then if MEP wants to use that shaft for actual fresh air circulation through the building, we'd be wasting a skylight.
right.
And just a thought for
That's-
consideration.
Yeah, that would be something that we can look at.
And I was kind of confused on some notes about the basement windows.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like there was a note talking about removing, repairing, and referred to them as historical basement windows. Are those going to be replaced also as scope of work?
Yes, all the basement
Okay.
windows would be replaced with the aluminum as well.
Okay.
That may have been the note that we added in one of our unit prices was for removing the historic wood frames that are still in
Okay.
place, just in case during the lintel replacement work, if that alternate gets taken, we'll have a price to be able to take those frames out to get at the underside of those steel lintels. So,
Okay. Yeah, the other questions were more technical, and I don't need to take up time tonight going through those. But in Section 5, discussions, we're going to discuss about archive storage. There's still some materials stored in the old jail, particularly the jail and the vault. And wondering if we're not going to be doing any work in the jail, is it possible to secure that from access during construction and just leave it as storage? And the same with the vault, the records that are in there, secure the safe or the vault and leave them in place so we wouldn't have to go through moving them out and moving them back in.
yeah, of those two areas, the vault is the easier to deal with. It would need to be accessed during the abatement work because that was specifically one of the areas their original report noted that the piping has the asbestos insulation on it. But once the abatement work's complete, that area, the vault could be closed off. The third floor does present the challenge of having a window replacement and
Okay.
the roof hatch work, and we put in the skylight or any work with that air shaft. The other issue that presents would be the MEP removal. We did have our MEP engineer call out trying to retain those existing roof penetration locations for the plumbing vents for the sake of potential future reuse. And so you'd be looking at having to leave that third floor section of piping to those
Right.
vents instead of being able to remove it. So,
Yeah.
but that could be moved to the later phase if you wanted to do it that way.
I saw on the architectural mainly you were just removing the shelving that was there. I didn't catch that on the MEP. So if you're going to have workers into that area, because Chief Harrison, isn't that used for evidence storage up there too? So access is limited with it.
Well, as you know, it used to, wow. As you know, it used to be a jail,
Yeah,
so it's pretty solid. Where we've got our stuff is already locked up and secured real well. So
it's
I don't
in
know
the
what.
jail.
Right. Well, it's a portion. Yes, it used to be that whole area used to be a jail. And
Yeah.
It's all of the things that we have remaining there. That's where it's at. So
Okay.
it's well secured. I don't know that there's utilities that you need to access, but it is well secured as it sits.
Because we're going to be replacing the windows up there, and the contractors will be taking pipes out and other items, so that would be, they would need access to that whole area.
Yeah. He would have that knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, well, then your evidence that's stored there needs to be removed so that the contractors can have,
It'll have to be removed if they have to access it, yes.
okay. That was what I wanted to make sure, that it was type of storage that could not be accessed by anyone other than law enforcement.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So it looks like what you've got planned for your architectural there, the vault would be the only area possibly.
Yeah, like I said, since it only has the abatement portion of work, we were calling out to specifically leave all the historic shelving that's in that vault for
Yeah,
until later, so.
yeah, okay. Okay. So what you're asking us to approve the drawings that will allow you and staff to set a bid date.
Right.
And with that, you're looking at a pre-bid conference?
Correct.
And how long are you looking at a bid period from time release plans to receiving bids?
So even though it's a fairly small-scale project, there is a lot of work that includes subcontractors, so we still think giving a 4-week bid period
Yeah.
is probably the most appropriate.
Yeah. So you'll issue the plans in a couple weeks, have a
Pre-bid.
pre-bid.
Mhm.
I think you had any substitutions, 15 days
Right.
prior to bidding.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yes, sir.
Did staff have any questions about the drawings when they reviewed?
No, nobody else, I mean, we looked at them, I didn't have any comments, I'm not a,
Okay.
that's why I passed them on to you.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, Ian and I did get together on some things that I understood in regards to what we could move, like they talked about, do you want to save the trees, do you want to save all the bushes and everything, and we came to an agreement on that.
Okay.
Save the trees, the bushes can go,
Well, then if there's no further,
that type of thing.
there's no further questions, then I'm ready to entertain, or do you have any
Yeah,
questions?
what's the timeline on this project, on this phase one, once you start it, once the bid process goes out and there's a bid accepted, what do you look at the duration of the project?
Oh, as
Timeline.
far as the construction
Yeah.
goes, it could be 4 to 6 months of construction. Probably closer to the 4-month end, just because it's not a very large scope of work, so.
And you've allowed the contractor to state the number of days, correct?
Correct, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other?
No.
Well, if there's no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to consider issuing an advertisement for bids for the 1916 City Hall project to seal the building and to complete interior demolition as one big bid package, now known as City Hall renovation Phase 1.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Mayor,
Next,
did you want to talk about the move or anything,
yeah,
or
we,
after this next one, or?
yeah, we can go back in
Go back.
order now. I just wanted to get their input on
Okay.
what the work was, so we would know, do we have to move it all out, or, if we can keep from moving it, that's the best. So,
Yeah.
Do you need us to stay, or
I haven't got to that item yet. What?
do you need us to stay for the other discussion?
The next, item on the structural engineer, if you don't mind. Absolutely. Maybe you could kind of explain what you were going to do. Because next item is consider amending the agreement with Trainer HL to provide a structural engineering service. So Vance?
So when we did our original proposal, we didn't want to include consultants that were unnecessary for this work, so we specifically noted that we didn't include a structural engineer as part of the team. As part of our evaluation out in the field, however, as we noted the level of deterioration with the steel lintels, we felt like we needed that input, so we worked with a structural engineer to provide an